Manana Iguana by Anne Whitford Paul. Read by Booker Tolo. On Monday, lunes, Iguana twitched her tail happily. Let's celebrate spring with a party on Saturday. Conjo hopped up and down. Yes, let's. Tortuga poked out of his shell. A fiesta? On Sabado? Count me in. Cobra shook his rattle. Me too. Good, said Iguana. We must start right away. Who will help me write the invitations? Yo no, not I, said Conjo. I write too fast. No one could read my words. Yo no, said Tortuga. I write too slow. I can't hold a pen, said Culebra. Maybe I'll grow arms tonight and can help you tomorrow. We can't wait until mañana. Iguana wriggled her tail. I'll write the invitations myself. And she did. On Martes, Iguana asked, Who will help me deliver the invitations for our fiesta? Yo no, said Conjo. I move too fast. I'd pass our friends. Yo no, said Tortuga. I move too slow. Cobra said, If I grow arms tonight, I'll help you mañana, Iguana. Mañana will be too late. Iguana fidgeted her tail. I'll deliver the invitations myself. And she did. On Miércoles, Iguana asked, Who will help me stiff the piñata for our fiesta? Yo no, said Conjo. I stuff too fast. I'd rip and tear. Yo no, said Tortuga. I stuff too slow. Goldbreast said, Mañana, Iguana, when I grow arms. Too many excuses. Iguana flounced her tail. I'll stuff the piñata myself. And she did. On Jueves, Iguana begged, Please, will someone help me cook the food for our fiesta? Yo no, said Conjo. I cook too fast. I'd make a mess. Yo no, said Tortuga. I cook too slow. Culebra said, If I grow arms, I'll help you mañana, Iguana. Iguana slapped her tail on the ground. I'll cook the food myself. And she did. On Viernes, Iguana sighed. I don't suppose anyone will help me hang the streamers for our fiesta. Yo no, said Conjo. I hang too fast. I'd tear the streamers. Yo no, said Tortuga. I hang too slow. Culebra said, I'll help you hang the streamers. Iguana clapped. Hooray! I'll help you mañana, Iguana, when I grow my arms. I knew it! Iguana smacked her tail on the ground so hard she puffed up a cloud of dirt. I'll decorate by myself. And she did. And then it was Sabado. Conjo hopped up and down. We're ready for our fiesta. Tortuga poked out of his shell. Here come our guests. Culebra shook his rattle. Let's greet them. No! Iguana whipped her tail around in angry circles. I wrote the invitations and I delivered them. I stuffed the piñata. I cooked the food. I hung the streamers. Now I, and I alone, will greet my guests at my fiesta. And she did. Conjo hurried to hide behind a cactus. Tortuga shrunk into his shell. Culebra slithered under a rock. They watched for a long time while the guests laughed and ate and broke the piñata. What a fine fiesta, the guests said as they left. Iguana yawned. I'm too tired to clean up. I'll do it mañana. She stretched out and soon slept. Conjo hopped out from behind the cactus. Iguana's really worn out, he said. Tortuga poked out of his shell. She should be. She did everything. Culebra slithered out from under the rock, and we did nothing. They were silent for a long time. Suddenly Conjo said, I have an idea. He told it to his friends. That's great, said Tortuga. Culebra said, Let's start now. And they did. Conjo pulled down streamers, put away leftovers, and packed up trash. Tortuga scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed one giant platter, and Culebra squiggled and squirmed, sweeping the ground spotless. They worked until Domingo, and Iguana woke up. She rubbed her eyes and looked around. She looked at Conjo and Tortuga and Culebra. Iguana smiled. Gracias, she said. Thank you. Then she twitched her tail happily. You must be hungry from your hard work. Who will help me eat the leftovers? Yo sí, cried Concho, Tortuga, and Cuerva. And they all did. The end. Home for a Bunny by Margaret Wise Brown. Read by Booker Tullough. Spring, 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 sang the frog. Spring, said the groundhog. Spring, 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 sang the robin. It was spring. The leaves burst out, the flowers burst out, and robins burst out of their eggs. It was spring. In the spring, a bunny came down the road. He was going to find a home of his own. A home for a bunny, a home of his own, under a rock, under a stone, under a log, or under the ground. Where would a bunny find his home? Where is your home? He asked the robin. Here, 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 sang the robin. Here in this nest is my home. Here, 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 sang the little robins who were about to fall out of the nest. Here is our home. Not for me, said the bunny. I would fall out of a nest. I would fall on the ground. So he went on looking for a home. Where is your home? He asked the frog. Wog, 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 sang the frog. Wog, 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 down in the bog. Not for me, said the bunny. Under the water I would drown in a bog. So he went on looking for a home. Where do you live? He asked the groundhog. In a log, said the groundhog. Can I come in? Said the bunny. No, you can't come in my log, said the groundhog. So the bunny went down the road, and down the road he went, and he was going to find a home of his own. A home for a bunny, a home of his own, under a rock, or a log, or a stone. Where would a bunny find his home? Down the road, and down the road, and down the road he went, until he met a bunny. Where is your home? He asked the bunny. Here, said the bunny. Here is my home, under this rock, under this stone, down under the ground. Here is my home. Can I come in? Said the bunny. Yes, said the bunny, and so he did. And that was his home. The end. The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by a Wolf, as told to John Siska. Read by Booker Tullough. Everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, or at least they think they do, but I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story, because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how the big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But, like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cough. I ran out of sugar. So I walked down to the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? So of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in?" No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on, and I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down, and right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang the doorbell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, Wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open, so I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake, so I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" And do you know what that rude little porker answered? "Get out of here, Wolf, don't bother me again." Talk about impolite! He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig! I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake, when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, "And your old granny can sit on a pin." Now I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down this pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting, so they jazzed up the story with all of that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it, the real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. The end. Good Night, Sleep Tight by Claire Friedman. Read by Booker Tullo. One night, Grandma was looking after Archie. "Aren't you sleepy yet, Archie?" asked Grandma. "No," replied Archie. "I don't feel sleepy at all." "Have you got your favorite friends to cuddle?" she asked. "They might help you feel sleepy." "I've got Tiger and Rabbit." "But where's Elephant?" said Archie. "Here he is," said Grandma, tucking him in nice and snug. But neither Archie nor his little friends went to sleep. "What about a nice warm milky drink?" said Grandma. "That might make you sleepy." Archie drank his milk, but he didn't feel sleepy. "Please, can we watch the fireflies, Grandma?" he said. "That'll make me sleepy." Grandma wrapped Archie in his cozy blanket, and they watched the dancing fireflies. Archie tried to count them, but it didn't make him feel sleepy. "I'm still wide awake, Grandma," he whispered. So Grandma rocked Archie in her arms and sung a gentle lullaby. Archie felt safe and warm, but he didn't feel sleepy. "Grandma, please will you tell me a story?" he said. Grandma sat down comfortably, and Archie snuggled up close to her. She told him stories about all the naughty things his mummy had done when she was little, just like him. "Your mummy never felt sleepy at bedtime either," Grandma said. Grandma carried Archie inside. She smiled as she remembered putting his mummy to bed when she was little. Grandma tucked Archie up in bed. I used to tuck your mummy up in bed with the blankets pulled right up to her nose, like this," said Grandma. "Then I'd stroke the top of Mummy's forehead, like this," Grandma said, "and I'd give her a very special good night kiss," said Grandma. Grandma gave Archie a special good night kiss. "That's right, Grandma," and then she says, "Good night, sleep tight." "That's right, Archie," said Grandma. And before Grandma could say good night, sleep tight, Archie was fast asleep. The end. Guess How Much I Love You by Sam McBratney. Read by Booker Tullo. Little Nut Brown Hare, who was going to bed, held on tight to Big Nut Brown Hare's very long ears. He wanted to be sure that Big Nut Brown Hare was listening. "Guess how much I love you," he said. "Oh, I don't think I could guess that," said Big Nut Brown Hare. "This much," said Little Nut Brown Hare, stretching out his arms as wide as they could go. Big Nut Brown Hare had even longer arms. "But I love you this much," he said. That is a lot," thought Little Nut Brown Hare. "I love you as high as I can reach," said Little Nut Brown Hare. "I love you as high as I can reach," said Big Nut Brown Hare. "That is quite high," thought Little Nut Brown Hare. "I wish I had arms like that." Then Little Nut Brown Hare had a good idea. He tumbled upside down and reached up the tree trunk with his feet. "I love you all the way up to my toes," he said. "And I love you all the way up to your toes," said Big Nut Brown Hare, swinging him over his head. "I love you as high as I can hop," laughed Little Nut Brown Hare, bouncing up and down. "But I love you as high as I can hop," smiled Big Nut Brown Hare, and he hopped so high that his ears touched the branches above. "That's good hopping," thought Little Nut Brown Hare. "I wish I could hop like that." "I love you all the way down the lane as far as the river," cried Little Nut Brown Hare. "I love you across the river and over the hills," said Big Nut Brown Hare. "That's very far," thought Little Nut Brown Hare. He was almost too sleepy to think any more. Then he looked beyond the thorn bushes, out into the big dark night. Nothing could be further than the sky. "I love you right up to the moon," he said, and closed his eyes. "Oh, that's far," said Big Nut Brown Hare. "That is very, very far." Big Nut Brown Hare settled Little Nut Brown Hare into his bed of leaves. He leaned over and kissed him good night. The end. If You Give a Mouse a Brownie by Laura Numroff. Read by Booker Tullo. If you give a mouse a brownie, he's going to ask for some ice cream to go with it. When you give him the ice cream, he'll ask you for a spoon. He'll start drumming on the table. Drumming will get him so excited he'll want to start a band. You'll have to play guitar. He'll want to put on a show, so you'll have to build a stage. Then you'll need some spotlights and a microphone. When the stage is finished, he'll want to make lots of tickets. You'll have to find paper and markers. When the tickets are done, he'll decide to make posters as well. He'll hang them all over the neighborhood. When he's out hanging them, it might start to rain. He'll fold some posters and make a little boat. Then he'll sail it in a puddle. He'll get so wet he'll start to sneeze. You'll have to put him in your pocket to stay nice and warm. When he peeks out of your pocket, he'll smell something delicious. The smell will remind him that he's hungry. You'll have to take him to the store and get a few things to nibble on. Of course, he'll want to have a picnic. When the sun comes out, you'll have to take him to the park. While you're setting up the picnic, he'll see a playground. He'll jump on the swings. He'll go as high as he can. When he looks up at the sky, he might notice a big white cloud. The cloud will remind him of ice cream. He'll probably ask you for some. And chances are, if you give him some ice cream, he'll want a brownie to go with it. The end.